So, members of Congress, led by Ted Cruz, have introduced a resolution which aims to stop the ATF's new rule on frames and receivers. So, let's talk about this. But, real quick before we jump into this video, if you think the ATF needs to be abolished, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Also, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, which is Sonoran Desert Institute. SDI is an accredited online college that helps students learn the skills and techniques they'll need to be successful in the firearms industry. So, if you enjoy gun repair, ballistics, and learning about firearms, SDI might be a good option for you. To find out more, you can visit the link down in the details section, and thank you again SDI for sponsoring this video. So like I said in the intro, members of the Senate, led by Ted Cruz, have introduced a Congressional Review Act joint resolution of disapproval, which aims to stop the ATF from implementing their new rule on frames and receivers that they dropped this Monday. If you aren't aware, this Monday, the DOJ/ATF released their final rule on frames and receivers. The final rule did multiple things, and you can watch a prior video I put out on the channel with a more comprehensive breakdown of all the things that this new rule actually has and how it implements it. But essentially what this new rule does is it made it so that 80% kits or so-called ghost guns would need to be serialized and regulated as actual firearms. The final rule primarily placed the burden of serialization on kit manufacturers and gun stores as well. Gun stores would be required to have to serialize an 80% kit that they had in their inventory, and they would also have to serialize any 80% kit that came to them that wasn't serialized, or 80% privately manufactured firearms. If they came to them, they would have to serialize them before they sold them. And also they would have to run a background check going forward when this is actually in effect on any sales of these kits or privately manufactured firearms. Through this final rule, the ATF is completely redefining what a firearm actually is under federal law. Another thing that this final rule did as well is that it changed the record retention rules so that gun stores would now have to maintain their transaction records essentially forever. And when they go out of business, they would then have to send all of those records, all that information they maintained while they were in the entire course of their business, they would then have to turn that over to the ATF, which for a lot of us is very concerning because now the ATF is going to have even more records, and it just further leads to them having transactions, all the information they would need to have this kind of backdoor gun registry. Essentially, the whole goal of this new rule is to restrict the sale and possession of so-called ghost guns, and this new rule goes about it various ways. Like I said, there's another video you guys can watch that shows all the things that this new rule actually is trying to implement and probably answers a lot of questions that you might have as well. So after this new rule hit, many of us were obviously very concerned. In reaction to this new rule, Ted Cruz and other Senate members are pushing for a joint resolution of disapproval. The Congressional Review Act, or the CRA, is a law that empowers Congress to review new federal regulations through an expedited legislative process. If a joint resolution of disapproval actually is passed, then the regulation in question is overruled and it is essentially repealed, and then also any future rule that is substantially similar is then also prohibited. So the goal of a joint resolution like this is to stop the new rule's enforcement, stop the ATF from actually implementing this new rule, and they're doing that through a legislative process. The press release from Ted Cruz states, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, announced that he will introduce a Congressional Review Act Joint Resolution of Disapproval, CRA, to prohibit President Biden's Department of Justice from implementing a new rule to expand firearms definitions. Senators Lankford from Oklahoma, Braun from Indiana, and Lee from Utah are partnering with Senator Ted Cruz in introducing the resolution. The Biden administration wants to institute a final rule defining a firearm under federal law to not only mean a complete product, but also its individual parts, often included in a weapon parts kit. If implemented, this new rule would require gun kits and gun parts to be regulated as if they were fully functional firearms, meaning they wouldn't be able to be sold without a serial number or without the buyer having to undergo a background check. The new rule would also require those federal firearms licensees to retain records permanently, in effect creating a national firearms registry. The current rule, which the Biden administration seeks to change, allows for the disposal of records after 20 years. Upon announcing that he introduced the resolution, Senator Ted Cruz stated, "For the past 2 years, we've seen crime rates skyrocket all across the country, aided by Democrats' soft-on-crime policies and left-wing district attorneys operating like progressive activists instead of law enforcement officers. Democrats would love nothing more than to shift the blame and stoke anti-gun sentiment and create a permanent national gun registry in the process. By introducing this resolution, we are pushing back. We want to stop the Biden administration from issuing the final rule, expanding the definition of firearms, and instituting a national gun registry. We want to stop the false narrative that links the rise of crime to ghost guns and firearms, and we want to protect law-abiding citizens who are exercising their Second Amendment rights. Senator Langford stated in regards to this joint resolution, crime is going up in far-left cities because of soft on-crime policies. Biden's response is to clamp down on guns put together in a kit. Federal law already prohibits felons from owning or possessing any gun, including so-called ghost guns, said Langford. This is another attempt by the Biden administration to strip law-abiding citizens of their Second Amendment rights, instead of addressing the failed policies that have led to increased crime across the country. This action by the Biden administration is not going to solve rising crime rates. Senator Cruz and I are pushing to overturn this rule and will introduce a Congressional Review Act resolution to overturn it. Senator Lee from Utah stated in regards to this resolution that Congress was explicit in the Firearms Owners Protection Act that federal gun registries are prohibited. Nevertheless, the Biden administration and the ATF are determined to restrict Second Amendment rights. The Biden administration is willing to exceed legal authority, deliberately misinterpret the law, and ignore explicit prohibitions to enact its radical anti-gun agenda. So the goal of this joint resolution is to stop the ATF's new frame and receiver rule through congressional action. Now, if you were to ask me if you think this has a chance, I would say it's a very slim chance. The Senate must pass the resolution with a simple majority, but of course, even if it passes, it needs presidential signature and it can't be vetoed by the president. If the president does veto it, then it could be overridden by a 2/3 vote in both the House and Senate. So with the current congressional makeup and current president, this is next to impossible in passing in my opinion. However, with the coming midterm elections, a shift in congressional makeup could make something like this maybe more possible. So I wanted to put this on your guys' radar because a lot of you were asking me in my prior video what is being done about this, what is being done by Congress to try to stop this frames and receiver rule, and this is one thing that some members of the Senate are trying to do to stop the implementation of this ATF new rule. Another option to stop the ATF's new rule on frames and receivers will obviously be litigation, and organizations like GOA, FBC will likely be filing lawsuits against the ATF, against the government for trying to implement this new rule on frames and receivers. They will likely do that after it actually goes into force and effect. They're likely going to be looking for plaintiffs here soon as well, so keep an eye out for that. But that is, in my opinion, a more streamlined process. It probably has a stronger chance of actually doing something about this because right now with the congressional makeup, it's going to be pretty hard or next to impossible to actually get something like this passed. So we will see how this plays out. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Al Gore's rhythm. It adds fuel to his jet and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of two-way news. Again, I want to thank everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hits the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, and helping me to reach and educate more people than I could ever do or ever would have thought I could do on my own. So thank you so much for all of your support. And as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.